Okay, today we're fixing a piece of torn vinyl flooring. It's a pretty simple repair. You do have to watch the whole video because there's a lot of tips and tricks in this video that'll help you. But I do want to tell you beforehand that I'm not a professional, floor installer or flooring guy. I'm a maintenance guy. This is the way I do my repairs, and I hope you can fix your floors with this video. So this is the tool that I use to apply. This is the adhesive that I use, carpet and sheet vinyl adhesive. Now, first thing is, of course, all vinyl has a pattern, and you want to match that pattern when you do your repair, just to make it seem seamless. Of course, it's kind of hard, but it's possible. In this case, I did have a piece of vinyl laying around the shop that actually has that little section that I needed. I will tell you though, before you do something like this, keep the new vinyl that you're gonna cut, or where you're gonna get your piece from, at room temperature at least 2 hours prior to doing this cut or this patch, because vinyl does expand and contract with heat and cold. You don't want to put a repair and then have it expand or contract later. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to line up our pattern. All these types of vinyls have a pattern. What you want to do is line it up, make sure it's the same, and that's where you're going to do your cut. In this case, as you can see, the tear was pretty bad. It had a bump on it. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut out. This is just a rough cut. It have to be nothing measured or fancy. It's just a really rough cut. I just want to get rid of that and have a nice surface area to work. As you can see here, I did have 2 layers of vinyl, so it's going to be 2 squares that I'm going to cut out. Now in this case, I'm going to do some measurements. My measurements, my marks are going to go past where my repair is going to be at, so that when I put my new material on top of it, I can see exactly where it's at. And in this case, I can see. Of course, your pattern has to line up everywhere, every place. Make sure your pattern's lining up before you cut anything. Make sure everything's nice and lined up, squared up. You only have one chance to do this. If you mess it up, you're gonna have to look for another area that's got that pattern that you need, and it can get pretty hard. Make sure your top, your bottom, your sides, everything all lines up. All the lines line up. As long as it's same stuff, it's pretty easy. Of course, you want to put some tape on it before you make any cuts. Like I said before, you only have one chance to do it, so you want to get it right. As you can see, everything's lining up everywhere. Before I cut this, I got to make sure everything lined up. And like I said before, we have our marks already ready to go, so I can see where I'm gonna line up, where my cut's at. This makes it a lot easier instead of trying to, peel it up later and see if I got it right or not. And then I just run my marks, my pencil marks or pen marks. In this case, I used a pen. Make sure you use something that you can remove later on easy. And then this is my square that I'm gonna cut out. The cut doesn't have to be very precise, but it has to be pretty close. And when you do this cut, you're gonna cut both pieces of vinyl. You're gonna cut the existing and the bottom one. So to me, it's important to have a line. It helps me. I know where I'm gonna put my. I'm using a metal square here as a straight edge for my cuts. Now we're gonna get into the cuts. Like I said before, you only have one chance. You gotta get them right. You gotta get them. When you do these cuts, you gotta get them deep all the way to the bottom. And now, when you do these cuts, you want to run your blade. See, in this case, I flipped the blade to the sharper side. You want to have a nice sharp blade to do these cuts. Now, you don't want your blade to tilt, right or left or sideways. It's got to be nice and straight. And then when you do your cuts, you go all the way to the bottom. And in this case, I had concrete, so I could feel the concrete when I'm cutting. And on these cuts, you want to make sure you go a little bit past the line. You don't want to stay before the line, because you don't want to be pulling on these pieces that you're gonna pull out, because this vinyl does stretch. So you don't want to stretch anything. You want everything to come out nice and straight and good. In this case, like I said, I'm going all the way to the bottom. I can feel the concrete when I'm cutting, and I'm going just right past that edge where I had my mark. I got to make sure everything's cut all the way to the bottom, like I said before. And then from there, we're gonna peel off this is gonna be the actual patch, and this is what we're removing. As you can see, it came out pretty good. That's good. That's clean. That's clean cut. Now you want to cut any excess glues that are there. You don't want to stick this over something that's got a hump on it and it's gonna look horrible later. In this case, the glue that they had put on it is just not even that much. It's just barely put any glue on it. So right there, I already patched the first square. I knew the measurement, so that was just a measurement, and I measured it, and that's the bottom square. I put the grain sideways or against the other grain just on purpose, so you can see that wasn't the actual patch. Now, this is the tool that is supposed to be for for applying this adhesive. In this case, it didn't work because they barely put any adhesive on it, so I'm just gonna apply it on with a brush. I had already done this to the first part, to the first patch that you're seeing, but I didn't record that because nobody wants to see glue drying. Now you're gonna apply this glue or this adhesive all the way to the edge. Make sure you get all the edges real good. Of course, everything's got to be clean. There we go. We get the edge all the way. Now, on this type of adhesive, it's gonna change colors before you can put your actual patch on it. If you were to put it on like that, it may not stick to it, or it would take a long time for that adhesive to dry. So you're gonna let it sit. As you can see here, it changed colors. It actually turned brown, so you can barely even tell there's adhesive on it. And this is what I'm using. I'm using Henry's carpet sheet and vinyl adhesive. And like I said, you're gonna let it turn brown. Once it changes color, it takes about 15-20 minutes, depending on temperature. Now, this is my piece. As you can see, the edges are curled down. You never want to have your edges curled up. If in worst case scenario, you could always put something that's heavy on top of the vinyl and lower the middle part of it. But if your edges are curled up, then it's really hard. Now, before we stick it, we got to make sure everything's lining. That's a pattern. That's the right place. Now, you want to be gentle with this. You don't want to force it in there. It goes in really, really gentle. Don't force your edges. Don't bang on them. Just put them in really. It's a precise cut, so it's not gonna just fit in. You're gonna have to work it a little bit. I have this little roller that I use for this. I don't know what it was from. Probably from some tape or something. I don't know. But this roller works fine. And this is what I apply the. As you can see, looks good. I mean, there's a little seam, but it's always gonna be a patch, so it's really impossible for a patch not to look like a patch, because there's always gonna be that little seam. But if you look at it from a distance, it looks real good. And that's all there is to it. I mean, this is not very hard. Anybody can do it. And I hope this helps somebody out fixing your vinyl floors. Well, you guys have a great day.